175 pounds, with a professional record of 30 wins, 2 defeats, and 17 knockouts, from Houston, Texas. Here's the former middleweight champion of the world, now ranked #1 as the light heavyweight, Frank Tate. His opponent, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing the black and silver trunks. He weighs in at 175 pounds with a professional record of 32 wins, 1 defeat, and 19 knockouts. From North Dakota, here's the former light heavyweight champion of the world, Virgil Quicksilver Hill.
Well, you're giving the rules, but the both of you, good luck. Make the best man win.
The Castrol tell of the tape, they are mirror images, like fighting against themselves. 6 feet, 175 pounds, same reach. Tate, once the middleweight champion at 160, he says part of boxing is finding the right weight, and this is his 7th fight as a light heavyweight. And here are the championship rules under the jurisdiction of the WBA. 3 knockdown rule, no standing 8. You can be saved by the bell only in the final round, and it's the 10-point must scoring system. Round number 1, scheduled for 12, and the crowd already up for this one. Frank Tate says he wants to take the fight to Virgil Hill, wants to cut off the ring so he'll know where Hill will be. We'll give Hill 2 options, to try to get out of that little hole or to stand and fight. Virgil Hill, who saw the tapes of Tate's victory against Andrew Maynard, said Maynard bullying, came forward. He didn't make Tate work hard. Tate could sit back, counter, jab, keep Maynard off balance. So Hill certainly will try to outbox Frank Tate. Tate feels that Hill is a one-armed fighter, only with the left hand.
And he may be right, but Hill uses that left jab. He's got an excellent left jab. As long as he uses that, he can control the pace and the tempo of this fight. You know, when they're on the inside, Frank Tate right now is learning about this light heavyweight division, how much stronger somebody like a Virgil Hill is. I mean, Virgil Hill is really the upperclassman of this light heavyweight division. Fought 12 times on national television, 12 title fights. This is his division.
And this is his home, where he is undefeated. 8 title defenses in Bismarck. He's 15-0 fighting in North Dakota. He is a legitimate light heavyweight. Frank Tate is the former middleweight champ, so certainly the odds on the side of Virgil Hill. Hill in his reign, 10 title defenses, but not awe-inspiring type of opponents. Biggest opponent, I guess, was Bobby Ches in '89. And Ches was not on the top of his game at that time, but nevertheless, Hill displayed a workmanlike quality, which resulted in him being rated 3rd in the world pound for pound by Boxing Illustrated at that time. But his reign, Sean, pretty well controlled. Yes. No big threats, all in his hometown. You know, never had that unification fight with guys like Prince Charles Williams and Michael Moore, Dennis Andres out there. And quite frankly, outside of the loss to Hearns, this is probably the toughest opponent he has faced in his career, Frank Tate.
Right, and in that loss to Hearns, he realizes now he was way too defensive. He said he would train differently. Now he would be more aggressive if he fought Tommy again. He said Tommy has lost to the boxers. I mean, to the brawlers, not the boxers.
Well, right after
Leonard,
that.
And he's lost to the people like Barkley.
After the victory with Hearns against Virgil Hill. Hill, taunted by Tate about not using the right hand. Tate says, I haven't ever seen him do any damage with the right hand. But Hill says, hey, I'm 32-1. If I did it without the right hand, more power to me. I have a good left hand, I should use it.
There was a good right hand by Hill. What Hill should do, get that right hand working, get Frank to look at that, and then power the left.
Bob and Leona Hill at ringside, and the concerned face you can see on both parents. Leona looks like saying her prayers, and Bob looks like he wants to be in the ring with Virgil. One round down, and Virgil Hill, who no longer is with the longtime trainer Freddie Roach. They parted company after the Tommy Hearns fight. Now Johnny Lewis. Virgil Hill has been living in Australia. He actually been living in Las Vegas since '84, coming back here to his hometown of Bismarck for his important fights, but took a year off, went down to Australia, kind of had to get away after the Hearns fight, and he's been working with Johnny Lewis. He says he hasn't really changed his style. He feels the Hearns fight was an aberration. He's looking to get more aggressive, adding some power, sitting down in the shots, and you can see a little of that here in the first round. And now moving into the second.
Said he loved it down in Australia. Said he spent the winter there. It reminds him of Bismarck. Virgil Hill lives down there with Jeff Finnick.
Virgil actually grew up in Williston, North Dakota, about 250 miles east of Bismarck. He trained in Grand Forks, which is about 280 miles actually east. Williston is west. I always get those two confused. But he had his big fights right in the middle here in Bismarck. Had great sponsorship here. Hawk Hawkinson, who's then the mayor of Bismarck, took the Virgil Hill under his wing. But since '84, he's actually lived in Vegas. Now Australia becomes his second, or I should say third home. I think he wants to win this title and take some championship fights down to Australia, down under.
You keep getting your left or your east and west mixed up, they're going to call you the Scarecrow. You know, listen to that crowd. Virgil Hill said, "This is great. Fantastic to fight here in my hometown." He said, "If I slip and fall, the crowd will cheer. It just gives me goosebumps." Because I think this is it. And this is it for him.
And I tell you something, Frank Tate said he would come out and take the fight to Virgil Hill.
Right.
Virgil Hill has taken the fight to Frank Tate.
That's because of the strength of Virgil at this light heavyweight class. But I tell you, Frankie Tate is great when his opponents are coming in after him. That's when he is at his best. Now, it's still early yet. Plenty of time in this fight.
And that's what Virgil Hill learned from watching the tape of Tate beating Andrew Maynard. Tate, who won the middleweight championship in '87, beating Michael Olajide in a 15-round IBF fight, then defending once against Tony Simpson, but losing the title to Michael Nunn at 160, and then going up to 166 and losing in 12 rounds to Lindell Holmes. Tate just said it was a matter of not being able to make the weight. He was just dying at 160 and 66. Once again, Hill comes on at the end of the round, and we will pause for a word from our local cable systems.
Life goes on, guaranteed to make you feel good. Grade A+.
Get him, Court.
Now on the Family Channel, life has never been this good.
We got it made.
Life Goes On aims at the heartstrings and plus.
This is one of my favorite punches in boxing. It's called a jumping left jab. Bing! Right on the point of the chin. Here's another look at it. Watch the protection that Frank Tate has for the left hook. He's watching for that. He's keying on that left hook. That right hand is up by his ear. You come inside that right hand. Good work by Virgil.
Virgil Hill, 32-1. 10 successful defenses of the light heavyweight crown before losing to Hearns. Hill says he looks back and he was taking the title for granted. All the wins coming here in Bismarck in front of his hometown crowd, and the loss to Hearns really shook him up. Says he has a new perspective, wants to get the crown back, wants to stay active, wants to put on some big time fights.
And also with a fighter like Tommy Hearns, who has tremendous power in his right hand, you have to be a little bit apprehensive going in there. You know, you don't want to get knocked out, so sometimes you don't quite commit yourself as much as you should. Big left hook by Hill. Frank Tate knows it. Good.
Oh, and an has Tate with the right, and now getting wild here in the third round. Hill has Tate cornered.
There's a good block of that left hook by the third round. These old-time professionals get warmed up and loosened up.
Oh, there goes the mouthpiece of Virgil Hill, but Hill closing in.
But there's a cut over the right eye of Frank Tate. That obviously from those left hooks.
That's enough. Break it up. Break it up, boy.
There's the time remaining in the third round. The mouthpiece reinserted by the referee, Bernie Soto.
Big jab. That is how a crowd can help you win a fight. Look at that support.
Two former Olympic teammates in 1984. Tate getting in the left hand. Really no story there other than being teammates. Tate won the gold medal at 156. Hill the silver at 165. Really weren't buddies. Didn't hang around. Hill's friends were Henry Tillman and Evander Holyfield.
Oh, good right hand by Virgil.
Tate says there were more sparks when he fought Maynard. More of something to prove. Maynard, who won the gold in '88 against Tate, the '84 gold medal winner. Coming down to 10 seconds, a terrific round for Virgil Hill, who has been without his light heavyweight crown for the last 15 months after reigning for nearly 4 years. The crowd erupts. Their guy has put on a show through the first three and has forged in front on the cards against Frank Tate.
And an excellent round in that third one because Frank Tate came out and tried to take control, but Virgil had to fight to take it back. Let's listen to Johnny Lewis.
Look for the head and bring it in. And jab to the body as well, mate.
Here it is. In that third round, Frank Tate putting more pressure on Virgil that round, but Virgil had to fight back to get Tate off of him. There's Tate shaking his head. Yeah, come on, let's fight. Let's war. Psychological warfare. Frank Tate trying to say, Virgil, you didn't hurt me.
Tate says Hill's fast, but I'm faster. I'm the former middleweight. Plus, I'm a better boxer than Virgil Hill. We have not seen that in the first three rounds. Hill is beating Frank Tate to the punch and taking the action to Tate. Two former world champions. Hill as a light heavy and Tate as a middleweight. This is the third different weight class in which Tate is going for a title.
And you see that white cut medicine, that Avitine over the right eye of Frank Tate. He is cut over there.
Frank Tate says he's a very patient fighter. He got that from doing a lot of fishing. Not a knockout puncher. Has to put his punches together. Works off the jab, but right now Hill not allowing Tate to get on track.
Big left hook. Little water over there in that corner.
Tate says he slipped. With problems now around the right eye. The cut opening. It appears to be bothering Tate.
Slipped over the left hook.
It is scheduled for 12. Virgil Hill has fought in 12 title fights coming into this one. He's won 11 of those. This is the 5th title encounter for Frank Tate, and he has split the first 4. Halfway through the 4th, the jab beats Frank Tate.
You know, this is where Frank Tate shines, when his opponent's walking in like Virgil is, but Frank Tate is not scoring. He's not unloading. What has happened here is Virgil has hit Frank so hard, now Frank is in his shell. He's defensive. He just doesn't want to get hit by that left hook anymore. Oh, the left hook. Tate retaliates with the right hand. With a fighter like Virgil Hill, you have to throw punches on him. He will walk in, he'll walk right through you.
Ooh, couple of elbows by Hill, and the warning by Soto. Doesn't take a point, but issues his first warning. And Tate was talking about, how rugged a fighter Maynard was. Certainly much more rugged than Virgil Hill. Hill showing a little ruggedness. Dirty tactics with the elbow. But I think he's just trying to make a point. He heard what Tate was saying.
Well, Frank Tate called Virgil a one-handed fighter, and he's been essentially right these first 4 rounds. But Virgil has landed some good right hands. Still needs to keep blocking that left hook. Boxing is a tough sport, and you get too aggressive at sometimes. Here is Virgil Hill, a little bit of that too aggressiveness. Whap. Take that. Oh.
What do you mean I'm not rugged, he says?
Well, what kind of sissy rules are these anyway?
In hockey, that is a 2-minute penalty for elbow.
Make him sit down. He sat down for a minute.
I don't think Tate would have any arguments with that.
Well, Tate's got to be wondering, what do I do to get this man off of me?
Well, if you were Tate, what would your answer be?
Well, Virgil is so strong. I mean, his problems may already exist, in that he came into this fight as a super middleweight. But this usually happens in boxing. A good big man 90% of the time will beat a good little man. Right here, what's happening is Virgil is just overpowering Tate.
And Frank Tate is stepping in the bucket. He is looking to step backwards.
Well, remember what happened when Melvin Taylor went up against Terry Norris? I mean, Norris just overpowered him. He was much too big for him. He's too strong.
Frank Tate said that part of boxing is finding the comfortable way. He said, after Nunn and after Holmes, no way can I make 160 or even 166, and light heavyweight is where I belong. And if this continues the way it has so far, you could hear Frank Tate tomorrow saying, well, I'm a super middleweight.
Exactly. And you know something? Today when I was talking to Virgil, he said, I think that Frank is a little bit lazy because he came in a quarter-pound overweight at the weigh-in because he won't take off those extra pounds to get down to that super middleweight division. He wants to fight in this light heavyweight division, and I don't think he's big enough.
Tate says that I'm not going to chase Virgil Hill.
Well, he hasn't.
He hasn't had to.
But it has been Hill that has been putting the pressure, relentless pressure, on Frank Tate. In order to get Hill off of him, Tate is going to have to start throwing some hard punches. He's got some powerful right hands.
Hill using the Hearns fight now. All he can do is a learning experience. He said, here I am against Tommy Hearns. He's out there shaking and baking. I'm there fine. Just stood around too much. And perhaps, in that fight, Sean, you look back at Hill's 8 defenses in Bismarck. He didn't have the crowd all on his side in Vegas. He didn't have that support. He was out of the nest. He felt the lights, pay-per-view, saw Hearns, a legend, perhaps in awe. Felt pretty much alone in that encounter and froze. He stood in front of Hearns, a robot. He fought his fight and lost his only fight of his career.
And that's the only bad part for Virgil. I mean, he's so used to this crowd, this ring, this atmosphere. He's so used to this that whenever he leaves this, he feels like a lost sheep. And it's very difficult to fight in different arenas around the world because you lose it.
And the crowd cheers Virgil Hill as he starts this round. Number 6. Virgil Hill in full control so far and has Frank Tate continually backing away. Yeah, there's Thomas and Van Ella Tate. The parents of Frank Tate came up from Houston with their son.
Oh, and that's so hard to sit outside of the ring and watch your fighter or your son box. It's harder to work the corner than it is to get in there and fight because in fighting, you have to release some of that energy. They're sitting over there sweating bullets right now. The Tates. Oh. Good right hand by Virgil. We've seen a few right hands tonight. They're telling Virgil more pressure, more pressure. But what he has to be worried about is running into the overhand right. Between rounds, Al Bolden, scolding Al Bolden, was telling Tate, you got to get busy, you got to get going. You're letting him get off too much, you're not throwing enough punches, and he's right.
That's scolding Al Bolden.
Scolding Al Bolden.
Pace slowing down here, and that essentially initiated by Virgil Hill. He's looking in, now working the jab in this round.
Ooh, big left hook. Frank Tate shakes his head no, and what that tells a professional fighter that you hurt him. When he shakes his head, that means, I got you. Look at Frank Tate's hands, one right in front of the other. Not protecting for that hook.
1 minute left in the 6th. Tate is hoping to load up with the right and try to turn this thing with a crunching right hand.
Trying to turn this thing, meaning Virgil Hill. Right here in the hills of North Dakota. That's Virgil's parents, the hills of North Dakota.
Champ, you just kill me sometimes.
Sorry.
There is the right, just glances off the face of Hill. And Hill comes back, showing both hands. Hill building up a big lead in the first 6 rounds.
Something else that you get from these heavier people, they are used to taking those big, heavy punches. Now you've got a super middleweight who's jumped up to the light heavyweight. He's got more weight, but the punches are dull still. They're not as sharp as they were as a super middleweight.
6 rounds down, 6 over the horizon in this 12-round affair for the WBA Light Heavyweight Championship. Our main event tonight on USA's Tuesday Night Fights. A chance to tell you what's ahead in the next few weeks. Next week in Miami, former heavyweight champ Michael Dokes inching closer and closer to 50 wins, and he takes on another veteran, Jose Revolta. That's next week from Miami. In a couple of weeks, on the 13th, we'll be back to the Blue Horizon in Philadelphia, and a great co-feature there. Nate Miller, Mr. Miller, against the former cruiserweight champ Dwight Cowie, looks for number 40, and also Tony Green and Harold Rhodes. October 27th, more championship boxing. The WBA middleweight title. Reggie Johnson against undefeated up-and-coming Lamar Parks. And also the colorful Roy Jones looks to make it 20-0. So that's the schedule ahead on USA's Tuesday Night Fights. 7th round action. Virgil Hill in the black trunks, and in the gold is Frank Tate. Both 28 years old, both 6 feet, both 175, both with reaches of 76. And so far tonight, that's where the similarities end. Virgil Hill, the home ring advantage and taking advantage against Frank Tate.
Almost identical records. However, Virgil Hill has been in with the class of this light heavyweight division, whereas Frank Tate has been in with some good super middleweights, but not really that many light heavyweights. This is his six fights in this weight division. This is his 7th.
And the guys he has beaten along the way: William Clayton, Greg Everett, Uriah Grant, Tim Johnson. Andrew Maynard was, of course, his biggest light heavyweight win.
Good fighters, but not quite the class of a Virgil Hill. What Frank Tate has had problems with is stepping up to this next division in boxing, this next classification, up with the upperclassmen. And right here, when that crowd starts yelling like that and you get hit with a good shot, you really don't know if you're out or not. You don't know if you have lost your faculties because the crowd is drowning out your noise. It's drowning out everything in your ear. You can't hear anything.
Or it's drowning out the bells in your ear.
That's right.
No knockdowns in this fight.
Take a look there at Frank Tate's mouthpiece. He keeps sticking it out. If you get hit with your mouth open like that, it'll either break your jaw or jack your jaw. Then you can't close it.
I just hate when that happens.
Oh, that hurts. That hurts as much as that liver shot. In fact, when they hit you in the jaw and break it, it feels like your liver's hurting.
going all the way down.
In fact, you have to lift it off your liver so you can see your liver.
Ladies and gentlemen, Fight Doctor Jr. right here. Sean O'Grady. This is where it generally ends for both of them. I mean, the similarities are uncanny. Sean even mentioning even the records. Hill 32-1, Tate 30-2. Most feel that this will go the distance. Frank Tate, who was born in Detroit as an amateur, fought under the auspices of the Kronk Gym, then moved down to Houston, turned pro under the Houston Boxing Association, then with Josephine Abercrombie leading the way. Now still working out of Houston. Insight 15 seconds ago in round 7. Still looking for some signs of life from Frank Tate, who has been beaten to the punch through 7 by Virgil Hill.
The temperature.
Bismarck, North Dakota, population 50,000. About a fifth of the city is here tonight to watch their own Virgil Hill against Frank Tate. 7 rounds down, and Virgil Hill building up a mammoth lead, and Frank Tate heard about that when he went back to his corner. And Virgil Hill also hearing from Johnny Lewis in his corner.
I'm not asking you to do what you can't do. Measure him up for the riding, mate. All you're doing is following him around. When you get him in the corners, you've got to load up on him, mate. Something wrong, mate. Something wrong. What do you feel on a couple of this bloke's tired, mate? We can get him with the right hand. Truly, Virgil. I'm not asking you for nothing we can't do.
This is what champions are made. This is what champions are made. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. This is what we do.
Is this nice round?
Virgil Hill is now training in Australia under the guidance of Johnny Lewis, who is not totally satisfied.
Right, good words from Lewis, but you got a fighter in there that I feel like is in control of the match. He's doing a great job setting the tempo, setting the pace. So what do you tell him? He's on it. He's still on him, which is a good sign.
Keep him sharp.
Exactly. You don't want to get sloppy.
And what did Al Bolden tell Frank Tate when he went to the corner? Says, hey, you're giving this away.
Oh, I'm glad I'm not in that corner. If I were Frank Tate, I'd go over to Virgil Hill's corner. At the end of this round, I wouldn't go back to my own corner. Ask him for some water and some cut medicine.
Hey, former teammates in the Olympics.
That'd be great.
Now you think Frank Tate wearing the gold, trying to rub it in a little bit on Virgil Hill. You know, in the Olympics in '84, Tate won the gold medal. Virgil Hill lost in the finals to a Korean Hoo-Suk Shin and took home the silver.
And I've been on Frank Tate's case. I mean, he is a wonderful super middleweight. He's one of the best at the super middleweight division. Former champion, a terrific fighter. But right now, he's just having trouble with the weight difference, the strength. There, the mouth is popped open again. I hope he hasn't hurt his jaw.
So what do you do if you're Frank Tate? He says he was dying even at 166. He can't make 168 anymore.
Well, even today, he came into the weigh-in at a quarter pound over. If you're a professional fighter, you show up at that weigh-in on time and at your designated weight.
Well, at least he was on time. We'll pause for these words from your local cable systems.
In Odessa, a remodeled kitchen turned into the McLaren's new family room. In Corpus Christi,
Frank Tate just had 3 minutes in the ring with Virgil Hill, and then just had 1 minute in the corner with Al Bolden trying to shake him loose, get him going. 8 rounds down, and it may be Virgil Hill pitching the shutout over 8.
And I tell you, Frank Tate is getting so much heat in the middle of the ring that the last thing he wants to do is go back to his corner and get thrown on the griddle. That is some heavy words. I'll tell you, Al Bolden was really scolding between rounds. He's trying to fire up Frank Tate, but I'm afraid he's really going to put him down in a hole now. Now you're getting beat. If the fight is way out of reach, maybe Bolden should say, look, let's call it a night.
Well, he thinks that Frank Tate has already said that.
And but there's why. There's why he's still in this fight. Frank Tate with that right hand. Oh.
Well, that's a warning to Hill. He's actually earlier had the warning about the elbow.
That was in the 3rd round, but Hill threw the added elbow.
Well, perhaps the victory in the way Frank Tate beat Andrew Maynard, stopping him in the 9th, was the worst thing to happen to him for this fight. Delusions of grandeur against the light heavy. Thought he could just walk in here and take apart Virgil Hill.
But this is a Virgil Hill that is a different classification of fighter than Andrew Maynard.
Virgil Hill, 12 title fights. He's gone the distance in 7 of them.
I say that, and now Frank Tate has been busier this round than any of the previous rounds.
A lunging left hand by Virgil Hill. And Virgil has certainly worked up a sweat. Also breathing hard here in the 9th.
Oh, that's great. Listen to that crowd. Stomping their feet, clapping their hands. That is what you fight for. And that is another reason Frank Tate is coming here to town. He realizes here he can make the money where other towns he could not, fighting Virgil Hill.
And Virgil Hill, of course, is a vacant title. Virgil had no complaints about fighting here in Bismarck.
Oh, there's why. Great fans.
Tommy Hearns took the title from Virgil Hill, then fought Iran Barkley, who became the WBA champion, and then vacated to go back down to super middleweight.
This is what you call a spanking. Oh.
I think, Sean, you have nailed it right on the head.
It has been Virgil Hill all the way. Virgil has taken control and kept control of this match, and they're still not satisfied. Johnny Lewis.
And Virgil Hill also showing Frank Tate, hey, I could be rugged. If you wanted rugged, I'll give you some rugged. I've got the big lead. If they take a point away, big deal.
Right, and whenever you get this in a situation, you have to do something to turn that control around. Right now, Virgil Hill has control, but later in the round, he took control with that big left hook.
Well, he probably learned that from watching the Kangaroos in Australia. Just kind of a jumping left hook. The man learns wherever he goes.
Wherever he goes, that's right. There's always something that's applicable.
Round number 10. Tate is ranked number 1, and Hill is ranked number 2. Hill won the championship back in September of '87 with a 4-round knockout over Leslie Stewart. 10 defenses, and nearly 4 years later, but then lost the title in Vegas last June to Thomas Hearns in 12 rounds. Outboxed, outsmarted, standing in front of Hearns, who then promptly lost it to Iran Barkley. But since Hearns, Virgil Hill has won a couple of fights down in Australia, beat Andre Nelson in 10 rounds, and then Lottie Mawali fell in 4 here in North Dakota in April.
And those were just a couple of fights to keep him active, to stay busy. He realizes that activity is the key. And it is. It's so important in this sport. You take a look at Frank Tate. His last fight was back in March of this year, whereas Virgil Hill has had 2 fights. This is his 3rd fight this year.
Watch ahead! No, stop it.
Wow, I have no question that there is something the matter with the jaw of Frank Tate. Frank Tate's mouth still wide open. That mouthpiece hanging out. He has one of those mouthpieces that are real thick. It's hard to get a grip on those. You can't really bite your teeth down. If you hold your mouth open like that and you get hit, it smarts.
This is a world championship fight. How does he come into the ring with a mouthpiece like that?
The same way that he comes into the weigh-in today, a quarter-pound overweight. You've got to take boxing serious. It is a serious business. It is a profession. And when you can start looking at it that way, then you start making these changes and realize that things happen in your favor.
You know, Frank Tate says, Virgil Hill, I never saw him do any damage with the right hand, and Tate has certainly not even taken advantage of that. Hill proving to Tate that he's 32-1 without using the right hand, and more power to me.
Exactly. Where he is so deceiving as a fighter. I mean, you try to throw the right hand, but he has such a quick, good left hook that it beats your right hand.
20 seconds.
You really have to speed up that right hand in order to beat a left hook. The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. So you bring that right hand on the inside to beat the left hook. Frank Tate has not done that. In fact, Frank has stopped throwing the overhand right because he hasn't been able to land with it. And he's been hit with too many of those left hooks.
Will our new lightning blade actually make your job as easy as this? Well, lightning stays sharp longer, cuts easier than the blade you're using or your...
Hustling out for the 11th round, Virgil Hill in the black trunks. This has been a typical Hill championship fight. Workmanlike, looking like it's going to go the distance, completely in control. Hill has had only 2 knockouts over the last, well, nearly 3 years. His last one was in October of '90 when he stopped Frank Minton in 9 rounds, and the one before that goes back to October of '89, James Kinchin in 1. And the note in both of those fights, both those fighters super middleweights coming up, as is the case here with Tate. And now on cue, it was Hill with a flurry upstairs.
You know, you talked earlier, Al, about Virgil Hill being somewhat protected in his career and in his title, fighting here as home base. And another protection that he's had is fighting the super middleweights who want to move up and challenge for the light heavyweight title.
And I think that is one reason. You take a look at Virgil Hill. 4 years the champion. Good-looking guy, terrific personality. And you wonder, why hasn't he cashed in more? But a lot of boxing has to do with the opponents you've beaten. Opponents sometimes make you the better boxer.
Absolutely. What would Ali have been without Frazier, or vice versa? So many. What would Larry Holmes have been without Cooney? What would all of these fighters? What would Ray Leonard be without Tommy Hearn? Or Roberto Duran? And it goes. The list goes on and on and on.
But you know, I think.
But a lot of the fighters make their opponents, because what Virgil Hill, for instance, what Virgil Hill should start doing is saying, hey, I've got a guy that I don't know if I can beat him. He's a great fighter. He's going to move up to light heavyweight. I don't know. He's really tough. Get some people behind it.
But I think that's the perspective Virgil Hill talked about when he said now he's coming back. He looks at this title differently. And I think he is trying to cash in. Now, Virgil Hill will tell you, well, you know, I try to get the fight with Moore, with Prince Charles Williams, with Dennis Andres, and, you know, Jeff White. It didn't work out.
But they all have a different story, too.
Exactly.
And they say they want the fight. You know, it would be a good time to unify this championship. The light heavyweight title has been split for so long, many people don't know who the champion is.
Tate was vying
We're going to find out here in a minute after this next round who the champion is.
Jeff Harding, the WBC champion. Prince Charles Williams, the IBF champion. Alonzo Barber, the WBO. Tate had a fight lined up. Oh! Hill gets caught by Tate. The right scores. And Tate thought Hill was down. He stepped away. What a mistake for Frank Tate.
Uppercut.
It was not a knockdown. But Frank Tate, who's been trying to load up on that right all fight. Ooh, that stirring uphill. Embarrassed by the near knockdown. Frank Tate thought that Hill was down and did not move in while Hill was off balance. The jaw broken, says Virgil Hill.
Behave yourself, Evan. Behave yourself.
Watch for the right uppercut. Look how he sets it. Frank Tate bends over, he drops that right shoulder, and then he brings the uppercut up. Walking away, thinking Virgil Hill is going to go down on the canvas. Bing, now watch. One shot, then away goes Frank. Virgil Hill doesn't quite touch the canvas, though. Virgil shakes it off, and a great thing for Virgil, at the end of the round, he got fired up, tried to wrestle around.
Birds, please, mate, for me, mate. I love you, Birds.
Please, mate, for me, Johnny Lewis said. Trying to get that control back was Virgil at the end of that last round.
Well, after that squeeze by Johnny Lewis, I guess Hill's jaw not broken. But Hill has a big enough lead to try to stay away. Tate's got to come at him, got to knock him out. But it is Hill who is the aggressor in the opening seconds of the 12th and final round.
And it really could play into Hill's plans. If Hill can get Frank Tate, who needs a knockout, to rush in, Hill might be able to catch him. Hill's been struggling for the knockout throughout this fight.
But Frank Tate had the window of opportunity.
Yes.
But he thought Hill was down. He was headed to the neutral corner.
One more punch and this fight might have been over.
Comes up with that shocking right hand, but then makes an error.
Big right uppercut, but let's see if he can do it again. He's trying.
That left arm low of Tate, but he does not fear the right of Virgil Hill. 12th and final round for the light heavyweight championship of the world, WBA version. Virgil Hill, who owned this title for nearly 4 years, has been without the belt the last 15 months after losing to Tommy Hearns. But right now, a minute 20 away, if he hears this final bell, to reclaiming the belt.
A busy pace. The third round, Virgil Hill got a warning for elbowing, but it has been all Virgil Hill throughout this match, I think.
Frank Tate may own the Budweiser Power Punch, but Virgil Hill has owned the fight. Al Albert along with the champ, Sean O'Grady, ringside at Bismarck, North Dakota. This is the final minute of the fight.
Wow, and right now Frank Tate is the one holding on. Frank should be throwing that right uppercut. A lot of wrestling. You don't wrestle with a bigger guy. It only wears you out.
The uppercut again by Tate. No knockdowns in this fight. 3/4 of a knockdown, and they will end it banging. You cannot be saved by the bell except in the last round. And this crowd will explode at the bell. He knows it, and so does he. For Virgil Hill, there is no place like home. We'll be back for the decision in just a moment. USA's Tuesday Night Fights tonight, traveling to Bismarck, North Dakota, the home of Virgil Hill.
Sophisticated computers tracking the space shuttle. Keeping the system on track, Luce Vaminda Verba, NASA contractor and DeVry graduate.
At DeVry, my future was...
Jam-packed to the Bismarck Civic Center, the crowd came to see Virgil Hill reclaim his WBA light heavyweight championship, and we will find out he did just that in just a moment. Here's the decision.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a winner. It's a unanimous decision. Robert Watson scored the fight 120-109. Harold Lederman scored the fight 116-112. Jose Campos 118-116. To the new WBA light heavyweight champion of the world, Virgil Quicksilver Hill.
I didn't see the suspense that seemed to be building in that ring. 118, 116, 116, 112. We didn't see it that way.
No, I had every round for Virgil Hill. I thought that he dominated, he controlled the match. The tempo and the pace was all his throughout. He showed that he had the biggest punches, the most power. Although the one round, the 11th round that Frank Tate connected with the one shot was the only round that I even had close.
Well, we'll really test the jaw of Virgil Hill. When we come back, we'll speak to him. Virgil Hill regains the title. And there he is rubbing the jaw. Was it broken in the 11th round? We'll find out.
What's your favorite episode of Quantum Leap?
My favorite episode has got...
Welcome back to Bismarck Civic Center, Bismarck, North Dakota. This man brought the crowd here, and they are still standing in their seats, trying to rejoice in the reclaiming of the WBA Light Heavyweight Championship for Virgil Hill. The scores kind of surprised us. Sean even had you pitching the shutout over 12 rounds.
Yeah, well, you know, I don't know, I'm just thankful that I got the title back. You know.
And you're even able to talk. Did you break the jaw, or you thought it was broken in the 11th?
Ah, cracked the tooth.
Well,
cracked the tooth?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll see if we get...
right uppercut.
We'll see if we get...
I don't mean to cut you off, but I want to thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Salute to everybody back in Clinton, Missouri, and my new home, Sydney, Australia.
Don't say that too loud around here.
Yeah, that's right. Did you try to knock him out? You dominated every round, but would there have been a point where you could have knocked him out in this fight?
Well, you know,
should you have?
You know, if I would have threw the right hand more, you know. But he kept pulling off to my left, and I wasn't throwing the left rip. So if I just got a little impatient, I tried to press the fight hard and keep pushing him and keep moving him back.
All right, Virgil Hill, you were way in front as we saw it through 10 rounds, and then in the 11th round, it almost shockingly turned the other way. Tell us what happened here.
Right uppercut, watch this.
You even remember the punch?
Sure. More, but he maybe threw about 3 or 4 of the whole fight.
Is there anything in the middle of the ring that gives you an